Part 3. First Marriage Then Love, Mr. Mayor Please Be Kind. Author, Zhao Nuan. Chapter 21. Little Comrade. The middle-aged soldier took a step forward and stood in front of Chu Xia and the young soldier. Without waiting for him to speak, Chu Xia rudely blocked, "Are you his nanny?" Soldiers, in this day and age, have no honor. No matter where they go, they are mostly adored, respected, and envied, but right now this thin little girl has a stubborn neck, her face is flushed with water, Yi's eyes were full of resentment, it was clear that he was really angry. Accidentally bumped it, so what? The smile on the face of the middle-aged soldier obviously faded. Little comrade. Could it be that he is dumb? Chu Xia once again challenged the bottom line of middle-aged soldiers. Well, she is not usually so arrogant, but who made them happen to bump into her when she was in a bad mood today? What do you want? The young soldier was finally willing to speak. The surprised look that flashed in the eyes of the middle-aged soldier was aimed squarely at Chu Xia. Judging from this, the rank of the young soldier was higher than that of the middle-aged soldier, and the young soldier should have a bad temper. I have a bad temper. I glanced at the other party's big man, who was about 1.8 meters tall and strong, and then looked at my thin and small body. In early summer, I felt a little drum in my heart. What are you afraid of? The People's Liberation Army serves the people, so dare to beat her? Chu Xia, who was timid and fat, stared at the young soldier without showing weakness. I don't want to repeat what I said, don't you know what I think? The young soldier's long and narrow eyes narrowed slightly, and he could not see that he was staring at Chu Xia with joy and anger. Huh? Why is there a stone with a sharp corner exposed where the two collided? If she took another step forward, obviously, the other party deliberately stepped forward and let her bump into it because she was a girl and couldn't help her. Then she. Thinking of how arrogant he looked just now, Chu Xia's little face immediately became hot, and even with it, the auricle and neck quickly covered with a glow. Seeing that the fry-haired little milk cat instantly became a small hamster in the cage, the young man pulled a smile from the corner of his mouth and looked at the middle-aged soldier who stared at him blankly. Let's go. Wait, Chu Xia shouted anxiously and said, aren't you going to Zhao Yuanbao's house? Wait for me later, I'll take you there after making soy sauce. Is it that important to make a soy sauce? The middle-aged soldier silently turned his attention to the young soldier. He had really learned a lot today, and he didn't know how to react, but to his surprise, the regiment commander actually nodded his head. Okay, hurry up. The middle-aged soldier immediately petrified, and the young soldier glanced at him lightly. Do as the Romans do. Do as the locals do. The middle-aged soldier continues to petrify. Don't blame him for making a fuss, really. In this era, such a wonderful thing is unique. Let's go. After a while, Chu Xia came back with a small bottle of soy sauce and took the initiative to run in front of them to lead the way, explaining, by the way, his house and my grandma's house are neighbors, his mother's health is not very good, and his grandfather's health is not very good. It is good. This is a disguised reminder to them, who to pay attention to when talking later. The middle-aged soldier glanced at her unexpectedly, but didn't say anything, but he could see that he was in a bad mood, and the young soldier's lips were still tightly pressed, and the three of them went silent all the way to the front of Grandpa's house in early summer. That's Zhao Yuanbao's house. Chu Xia pointed to the door next to him and entered his own door without looking back. She. The middle-aged soldier stared at the place where Chu Xia's back disappeared, with a look of disbelief. This is. What else do you want to do? The young soldier looked away and walked towards Zhao Yuanbao's house. The middle-aged soldier sighed and quickly followed after thinking of the purpose of the trip. Xia, who did you meet just now? Mr. Zhao heard Chu Xia's voice in the yard just now. When he saw her coming in, he tapped his chin and asked outside the door. Chu Xia hesitated for a while and said, Grandpa, let's go into the room and talk. What's the matter? The whole thing is so evil. The old lady Zhao, who was chopping the stuffing, said with a funny face, Xia went to make soy sauce, and also made a story. Even though she said so, the old lady wiped her hands and followed Chu Xia and Mr. Zhao into the house. Did you meet someone who is close to a condom? People can bully us. Chu Xia's eldest uncle was the secretary of the village, and the old lady had the confidence to say such a thing. No, Chu Xia told the old man and the old lady about the two soldiers they met on the road. If not, the old couple's faces darkened after hearing it. Isn't our family Qiliang announcing both good news and bad news? The old man Zhao interrupted the old lady quickly. Don't think about it. He got up. I'll cut some more meat, and pack some more to send to Yuan Bao's family. The cotters in the army come all the way, and they always have to eat something warm. How can Yuan Bao's mother and his grandmother take care of this? Hey! You. The howling came through the courtyard wall. The old man paused slightly and walked out of the door with a sigh. Mrs. Zhao, who was sitting beside the Kong, closed her eyes and let the tears flow down the corners of her eyes. Chu Xia knew that half of her grandmother's tears were for Zhao Yuan Bao, and the other half was for worrying about Zhao Qiliang, but at this time, she really didn't know how to persuade her. Chop up the stuffing. Early summer is coming. Chuxia, are you going to chop up my cutting board? Aunt Li Aiwan and cousin Zhao Kiwi came back from work with pickaxes on their shoulders. Seeing the early summer, the mothers were both happy. Good auntie, good sister Hui Chuxia greeted with a smile. Chuxia, what's the matter? Zhao Kiwi squatted down and looked at her red eyes. Have you had a conflict with my sister-in-law again? Mrs. Zhao, who had calmed down, came out of the room. Hurry up and wash your hands and make dumplings. Grandma is eccentric, and every time the early summer comes, the delicious food is delicious, Zhao Kiwi said while pinching the early summer, and said with a smile, tell me, did I deliberately have a conflict with my aunt and uncle because I was greedy? Hui'er, Li Aiwan glared at her daughter and glanced at Chu Xia's face. Seeing that the other party showed no signs of walking away, she continued, Chu Xia, if you want to eat in the future, come to Grandma's house and aunt will cook it for you. Grandma, what happened to the second aunt's house? Zhao Kiwi listened carefully and looked at Mrs. Zhao in confusion. Grandma, what happened to Uncle Xing's house? Why did I hear Aunt Bao and the second grandmother cry? Hey, Mrs. Zhao sighed, I don't know yet. When I went to make soy sauce in early summer, I ran into two soldiers and went to his house. First marriage then love. Mr. Mayor, please be kind. Author, Zhao Nuan. Chapter 22. What? The two soldiers who were soldiers went to Shang Yuan Bao's house? Chu Xia, did you see it with your own eyes? With Li Aiwan's exclamation, Zhao Qiun squatted on the ground with her buttocks squatted, tears welling up in her eyes, her lips trembling, and she didn't say a word for a long time. Yet Chu Xia's reaction made Chu Xia a little stunned, so she responded weakly, and continued to chop stuffing with her head sullen. She didn't know that the deity was clear about this matter, so of course she didn't dare to ask random questions. Don't worry, you girls, let Yushin come back and let him see what's going on. Mrs. Zhao sighed as she spoke, that child of Yuan Bao has a good heart, God can't be so cruel. Zhao Kiwi struggled to get up, I want to go and see. Hui'er, your father is back. Mrs. Zhao stopped her granddaughter, listen to grandma, wash your hands and make dumplings. Yeah, Hui'er, listen to grandma. Li Aiwan grabbed her daughter, her eyes full of distress, mother knows that you are not feeling well, so bear with it. Zhao Kiwi sighed, mother, let me go, I will listen to you and grandma. Li Aiwan hesitated for a while, then let go of her daughter. Zhao Kiwi went to wash her hands obediently, then took a rolling pin and sat on the edge of the Kong, waiting to roll out the skin. Mrs. Zhao had already taken over the job of chopping stuffing in Chuxia. Chuxia, who couldn't help other things, wanted to comfort Zhao Kiwi a few words, but when the words came to her mouth, she felt that it was meaningless to say anything at this time, so she sat silently with her. Beside him, he lowered his head in a daze. After a while, Mr. Zhao came back with a small piece of meat, and as soon as he entered the door, he told the family that Zhao Yushan had gone to Zhao Yuanbao's house. In fact, everyone understands in their hearts that the possibility of comrades in arms coming here to stop by and have a look is almost zero. The best result is that Zhao Yuanbao is seriously injured. When the dumplings were more than halfway through, Zhao Yushan came back, and when he saw Chu Xia, he nodded slightly. "Dad, are Yuanbao all right?" Zhao Qiwi asked anxiously. "Hey," Zhao Yushan sighed heavily, "Hui'er, you actually guessed it in your heart. You are still young, and the days to come are still long." You. Before Zhao Yushan could finish speaking, Zhao Qiwi threw her rolling pin and cried while lying on the kong. Li Aiwan glanced at her daughter distressedly, but did not stop her work, but accelerated her speed. "Cry, just cry." Mrs. Zhao patted her granddaughter soothingly and looked at Zhao Yushan. "What's the matter? Take the child who fell into the ice hole ashore, he himself." Zhao Yushan sighed. "Yuanbao's mother is sick, his grandfather has just recovered from his breath, and his father and his milk are also a little confused. I have to go over to help Zhongluo. Mother, let Kiwi and her mother bring the dumplings over later." Mrs. Zhao waved her hand. "Go, let your father go with you." When Zhao Yushan and Mr. Zhao left the door of the house, Zhao Qiwi quickly got up from the kong. I'm going to be a soldier too." "Hui'er." Li Aiwan grabbed her daughter. "Mother knows that you have a good relationship with Yuanbao, and knows that you can't accept it at once, but you are a girl. How can you really be a soldier if you say that you go to the army? The two soldiers must be leaders. I'll ask them to take me to the army where Yuanbao has been." Zhao Qiwi wiped the tears from her face. "The thing Yuanbao hopes most is that I can also put on a military uniform and be with him. To protect the family and the country. Now, I will go to the army where he stayed and accompany him." "Hui'er, you don't want a mother anymore." Li Aiwan looked at her daughter with tears in her eyes. "Your brother won't be back for more than a year. If you leave like this, how will your mother live? The child is gone. Isn't there me and your father?" Mrs. Zhao patted Zhao Qiwi. "Hui'er, go, if the leader can really take you to join the army, you can go along, grandma supports you. Looking at Chu Xia, Xia, accompany your sister over there to have a look." As soon as she entered the courtyard of Zhao Yuanbao's house, Chu Xia was overwhelmed by the sympathetic atmosphere, and she reflexively grabbed Zhao Qiwi's sleeve. "Xia, if you don't like it here, you can go back." Zhao Qiwi looked at her and squeezed out a smile that was uglier than crying. "I'll find them myself." "Sister, it's fine, I'll be with you." Chu Xia exhaled forcefully. "Sister, if they're busy, we'll come back to them after dinner." "I know, I won't be so unseemly, Xia. Originally, I could marry Yuanbao during the new year. You may not understand my sister's mood now, and you will understand when you fall in love with a man one day." Zhao Qiwi's mindless words were actually explaining why she had come to ask the leaders to take her to join the army at this time. Although she knew the timing was not right, for her, there would be no shop after this village, she thought. "What I want is to go to the place where Zhao Yuanbao once lived, feel his breath, and accompany him silently." Chu Xia didn't understand this kind of feeling, and even thought it was a bit silly to do so, but she knew that she was not qualified to say anything, and all she could do was to accompany Zhao Qiwi and let her achieve her wish. The house of Zhao Yuanbao's house was crowded with people. When the two of them appeared, everyone looked at them in unison. "Why are you here?" Zhao Yushan frowned when he saw the two sisters. "Fan all right?" "No," Zhao Qiwi said, and walked straight to the middle-aged soldier. "Chief, I am Zhao Yuanbao's daughter-in-law who has never been there. I beg you to take me to the army to become a soldier, and I want to accompany Yuanbao there." "Nonsense," Zhao Yushan dragged his daughter outside while looking at the middle-aged soldier. "Chief, I'm sorry, my daughter is talking nonsense." "Father, what I said is true. I'm going to be a soldier. I want to accompany you and Bao. You have no right to stop me." "Chief, if you really think Yuan Bao is a good soldier, promise me." Zhao Qiwi fell down. "Don't go out." Chu Xia stood at the door with an uncomfortable expression on her face, being stared at by the young soldiers. Why did she feel that, under the other party's line of sight, she was especially like a fat rabbit sent to the wolf's mouth by herself? You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. First Marriage Then Love, Mr. Mayor Please Be Kind. Author, Zhao Nuan. Chapter 23. A bag of dumplings in the left hand, a bag of millet in the back of the right, and a bag of dried sweet potatoes in his arms. Walking home, in the early summer, his mind is full of echoes, a chicken in the left hand, a duck in the right hand, and there's a fat baby. Melody. Grandma and Grandpa are getting old, my uncle and aunt are going to work in the field, and my cousin Zhao Qiwi is sad, and my second uncle and second aunt never like to see her, so in early summer, I can only walk on the path home alone. Taking 2 steps and taking 3 steps, she has never missed the crowded, sweaty, stinky foot odor as much as she does now. Buses. In April, although there is still a hint of coldness, if she walks with a heavy object, it is another matter. When she squatted on the side of the road again, when she was about to stick out her tongue to dissipate heat, she watched from a distance. Arrived at a thing like a car. Getting closer, closer and closer, in an instant, she had the urge to jump up and hug the big iron guy for a kiss. Crunch. The army green Jeep stopped in front of her, and the yellow dust rolled up by the wheels made her cough again and again. She turned her head and looked over. The head sticking out of the window was a middle-aged soldier, Captain Johan Liang. "Lin Chuxia, get in the car. We're going to Dalan village and take you back." Chu Xia quickly calculated the time it took for her to walk out of the half-mile, and then decisively opened the rear door and threw the things in her arms onto the rear seat. Looking at Johan Liang, "Thank you." Meaning, "You can drive." During the process, she definitely did not glance at the co-pilot's position. Johan Liang took a peek at Zhou Mikang, the head of the colonel, who was sitting beside him. He seemed to start the car calmly, but his heart was surging. He really didn't understand that the head of the regiment, who had always been nosy and hard-hearted, after seeing the small figure who moved 3 times from a distance, he took the initiative to move to the front and ordered him to pick up the little girl and go with him. What he didn't even understand was, where did this little girl come from? She already knew their identities, but she still looked like she was ignoring her, as if they were taking her for a reason. General as it should be. "Are you mad at me?" Suddenly, the head of Jota spoke. "Ask me." Chu Xia pointed to his nose and shook his head quickly. "No." "Then what is your attitude?" "What attitude?" Chu Xia stared at the back of each other's head in confusion. "Headmaster Zhou, do you mean that I should thank you a lot before getting on the bus? Conscription has conditions for conscription, it's not just what someone said. Is this explaining?" Chu Xia was stunned for a while, and the anger in his eyes quickly built up. "Of course I know that there are conditions for conscription, but you can't say things like that at that time." "I'm just telling the truth." Zhou Mikang frowned, and he wondered why he cared about this little girl's opinion and took the initiative to explain to her. Or thank her for taking away the crying heartbroken girl at a critical moment. Make him less embarrassed? It doesn't matter if you tell the truth, can you be gentle? Who wants to be short if they can grow taller? Who wants to be hungry if they can eat enough? Look at your age is 23 or 4 years old, right? There are only 2 possibilities for you to be the leader at this age. One is that you have a strong backer, the other is that you have extraordinary abilities, or both. From your personality and way of doing things, I'd venture to guess that you're a type of both, or you've been hungry during training, but you're definitely not hungry when you're growing. The reason why my sister is short is because my sister is sensible and loves my brother. She gave my brother all the delicious food. She was hungry and did not grow well. Why did she go to the army? That's because what brother Yuanbao wants to see most is how she wears a military uniform. She wants to accompany him. You are so impersonal. Huh, Chu Xia took a long breath, and finally said what was in her heart, and I felt so much better. Finished. Almost. Have you grown so big? Have you ever been hungry? Of course there is. How tall are you? 1 meter 6'4". Johan Liang. Johan Liang, who was in a petrified state, hurriedly concentrated his energy and pulled the car to the right track. He was so close that he drove the car into a ditch. Apparently, he didn't have any sense of danger, but in fact, the shock brought by the head of his family, Changzi, was beyond his understanding. When Chenma, the head of his family, Changzi, learned to explain. In his perception, the head of his family was kicked with big feet, and he didn't skip a word. How many words did the head of the group say today? He really regretted the wooden tape recorder. Otherwise, someone will help wash the smelly socks for a month. Absolute. Lin Chuxia, do you know how big an official the head of the regiment is? Johan Liang finally couldn't help but ask the question in his heart out of curiosity. Chu Xia glanced at him lightly. I know, it's about the same as the county magistrate of our county. Johan Liang. Well, he doesn't know what to say, so why don't he ask again, do you know how old the county magistrate is? I believe that as long as this child is not stupid, he will definitely know what kind of official the county magistrate is. Zhou Mikang turned his head and stared at her blankly. Aren't you afraid that an official who knows how old I am and still talks to me like this? What should I be afraid of? Chu Xia looked back at him speechlessly. I don't eat what you earn, and I don't work under you, what should I be afraid of? Zhou Mikang looked at her. Have you thought about joining the army? Me? Chu Xia pointed at himself amusingly. Going to be a soldier? Yes, Zhou Mikang nodded affirmatively. Don't you think it's funny? Just my physique. Chu Xia shrugged. My sister is not qualified. You come and ask me if I want to join the army. Why do I feel so happy about this? Your height is qualified, and your character is quite suitable for the military profession. Zhou Mikang turned around after saying that. I just have a suggestion. If you want to become a soldier, you must start exercising now. Chu Xia's eyes rolled. You will walk me through the back door then. Thinking beautifully, Zhou Mikang said, turning his head and dipping at her dumpling bag, we have carried you all the way, shouldn't we express it? Crench. Johan Liang couldn't hold it any longer, and stomped the car to death with one foot. He felt the cold swish of the regiment commander's eyes, and his back quickly became wet with sweat. I'm a little excited. Zhou Mikang said blankly, is there your mother-in-law in this village? Chu Xia quickly covered her mouth. I'm sorry, you guys continue. First marriage then love, Mr. Mayor please be kind. Author, Zhao Nuan. Chapter 24. Ask for a recommendation ticket, ask for a collection. He doesn't even have a mother-in-law. It's not that the regiment commander didn't know. Johan Liang started the car with a resentful expression, and continued to move forward at a speed not much faster than the bicycle. If he still doesn't understand the situation at this time, it is estimated that the next time he goes out, the entourage of the regiment leader package I don't know who it is. The car is out of gas. Yes, I think I'm coming to the village soon, so be careful. Johan Liang frowned. Did he misunderstand the meaning of the regiment leader? Well, drive slowly, so as not to scare the children in the village. Zhou Hanliang breathed a sigh of relief and continued the snail walk. Zhou Mikang turned to Chuxia again, and tapped the bag with dumplings on the seat with his chin. Don't be so petty, bring it here. You said it yourself, you can't take one needle and one money from the common people, and you can't eat the food of the common people in the early summer. The eagle protected the bag like a chicken. This is what my grandma left for my parents, and my parents have been around for a while. Months. Before the words were finished, a dark shadow flashed quickly in front of Chuxia. You. Crench. Zhou Mikang ignored Chuxia, who was stunned, and even Zhou Hanliang, who stomped the brakes again, and unwrapped his bag, grabbed a dumpling, and threw it in his mouth, chewing on it. Not bad, I haven't had this in a long time. Authentic dumplings. Are the dumplings he eats unauthentic? Chuxia curled his lips in contempt, but said nothing. Zhou Hanliang clenched his hands and looked blank. Now that he saw the village, what was going on with the head of the regiment? Is he going to keep going on fire or not fire or not? Taste 1, not bad. A dumpling was shoved into his mouth. Zhou Hanliang chewed it in a conditioned reflex, and swallowed it. It was so fragrant. He couldn't help but stretch out his claws and want to grab another one. They only ate a few compressed biscuits at noon, and the delicious food came first, so he could hold back. No wonder. Crack. Zhou Mikang slapped the outstretched paw back with a slap, tied the bag for the dumplings, took out a few food stamps from his pocket, and handed them back to Chuxia. Dumplings are counted as our food stamps to buy. Yes, no violation of discipline. He took it over and counted it. It was 22 kilograms in total. In early summer, he put it into his pocket and squinted at Zhou Mikang with a smile. The two are cleared. Zhou Hanliang. Girl, are your dumplings wrapped in gold? Zhou Mikang nodded with no surprise. Well, the two have been cleared, but my suggestion is that you should consider it carefully. If you want to become a soldier, you should exercise from now on, and use your height to strengthen your physique and select. There is still no big problem. I'll think about it. Chuxia looked at him. Can I ask, why are you rushing me to be a soldier? By the way, did I not tell you my age? I'm just 17 years old this year. The conditions for recruiting female soldiers are that they are 16-18 years old, over 160 centimeters tall, have good facial features and no obvious defects, and have a clean family background. Isn't your 17-year-old just within the marking line? How old are you? Chuxia asked bluntly. 26. Oh, 9 years older than me. Chuxia pointed at him meaningfully. Do you understand what I mean? Think I liked you? Zhou Mikang looked at her amusingly. Just your dry croton sprouts, how can you be so confident? Chuxia raised his brows. I didn't like the best. You are so eager to let me be a soldier, and you took the initiative to give me so many food stamps. If I don't think about it, I have a problem with my brain. Cough. 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 Zhou Hanliang almost coughed up his lungs with a mouthful of saliva. Chuxia looked at him sympathetically. Actually, you think the same as I do, you just don't dare to ask clearly, right? Cough cough cough. Zhou Hanliang waved his hands while coughing. He didn't even know what to say. He had been with the head of the regiment for 5 years. Today's head of the regiment completely overthrew what he knew about him in the past 5 years. You think too much. The smile on Zhou Mikang's face faded. I'll help you, just because your character is too much like my little sister, but she. A cold breath came out. Chuxia shrank unconsciously. Well, she shouldn't have caused his sadness, but she couldn't blame her entirely. His actions made her think too much. I wanted to comfort the other party a few words, but I felt that what I said at this time was pale and powerless, so I simply pursed my lips and said nothing. This is difficult for Zhou Hanliang. He has heard before that the regiment leader has a sister who is 4 years younger than him. He was kidnapped by an overseas organization when he was 16 years old. The regiment leader's father chose to give up his daughter for the sake of the country. The head of the regiment never mentioned the private affairs of the family, so he just regarded it as a rumor. Now it seems that it is really not a rumor, but what should he do? Jo Mikang's mood at this time was also very complicated. In fact, when he first bumped into Chusia, he was just out of a soldier's instinct and didn't want her to fall down in front of him. Later, Chusia's dislike of him made him think the little girl was very interesting. Later, the little girl stubbornly dragged the crying cousin away, which made him feel a little grateful to her. Yes, it was gratitude. At that time, everyone chose to remain silent, and all they wanted to express was to force him to take that girl away, but he really couldn't do that. Seeing her from a distance on the road, he deliberately stopped the car and switched to the passenger seat, until just now, he suddenly realized that the fundamental reason for what he did was that she had a very girl-like personality. How can a little girl from a farmhouse growing up in such a remote country have the same casualness as her baby sister? This is what he doubted. Thinking of the little girl's question just now, he felt amused. It was undeniable that the little girl was very beautiful, but he had seen so many beautiful girls, how could he be attracted by such a bean sprout? Jo Mikang unconsciously turned his attention to Chusia, who happened to be peeking at him carefully. That feeling made him suddenly think of the little mouse that came out of the hole to steal food, and couldn't help but reprimanded, "What does Goi Goi Chong Chong look like? I'm not your sister, can you speak better?" Chusia glanced out the window, "Stop the car, you don't need to drive me." Jo Mikang vs Jo Han Liang. "Girl, we sent you to the village, you said we don't need to carry you, why didn't you tell me earlier?" Jo Mikang thought for a while, but still took out a small book and wrote the address to Chusia, "If you encounter something that can't be solved, just write to me." He actually used a positive tone. "Who are you?" Chusia rolled her eyes and took the note, a bag of dumplings in her left hand, a bag of millet in her right hand, and a bag of dried sweet potatoes in her arms. Jo Mikang's mouth twitched and looked at Jo Han Liang, "Go to Chen's hometown. First marriage then love, Mr. Mayor please be kind." Author, Zhao Nuan Nuan. Chapter 25. I'll tell you, chickens don't die in vain, does someone just want to eat them? Ask for a recommendation ticket, ask for a collection. Look at what you're doing, I knew my sister-in-law would pick you up. As soon as Chusia stepped into the courtyard door, Lu Miking warmly greeted her and reached out to pick up the things in her hand. Chusia's wrists were already tired and weak, and she let go when the other party pulled her hands unconsciously. Smelling the smell of dumplings, Lu Miking squeezed the bag with her hands, swallowing her saliva. "What is it?" "It's really fragrant." Chusia hurried. "Take it back, I'll take it myself." A trace of resentment flashed in Lu Miking's eyes, but her face was full of smiles. "Look at you scared, my sister-in-law just helped you put a hand in it." While speaking, she swallowed several saliva. Anyway, he had already lost his face, and Chusia didn't bother to talk to her, so he went into his house with his head sullen, and slammed the door to death with his back with a bang. Lu Miking, who followed closely behind, did not expect her to make such a move. Her head slammed into the door panel, and her nose was also affected. She jumped up and wanted to scold, but suddenly realized that Chusia's identity was not what it used to be. Then, can only point to Chusia's house door to solve the hatred silently. Cursing a few words silently, she herself felt bored, so she rubbed her forehead and went back to the east. Seeing the sleeping Xuan, she grinned, thinking about it. Wow 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 wow. Chusia picked out half of the dumplings and was about to find Luo Xiaoxian when Xuan'er's earth-shattering cries came from the east. She couldn't help rolling her eyes. This is also a mother? After thinking about it, he simply locked everything in the cabinet, ignored Dong Jian's cries, and carried a small bag to Luo's house. Luo Xiaoxian was chopping chicken in the yard, and when he saw Shuxia coming in, he threw the big knife happily. Why did you come back so early? What delicious food did you bring me? Cuckoo. Will the fat ant beat you to death? Chusia pointed to the old hen lying motionless on the ground. You are too powerful, you can kill a hen with a knife. If I hadn't seen it with my own eyes, I would definitely. I think you're greedy for chicken, on purpose. Luoziokshan was so excited just now that she didn't hear the howl of the hens. She looked in the direction of Chusia's fingers, and her forehead immediately sweated. This is the old hen that lays the most eggs in her family. Her mother would really beat her to death. What should I do? What should I do? Luoziokshan turned around in a hurry. Or should I bury it? Chusia reminded her with a headache, Aunt Fatty has to count these chickens every day. I just told my mother that it went out in the afternoon and didn't come back. Luoziokshan said that she was going to go to the wall to get a pick and dig a hole. Stop, Luohunky limped out of the room and glared at his sister. You killed a good old hen, you don't want to make up for our parents, but you also want to bury it? Now, believe it or not, if you bury your front foot, she will dig out your back foot and take it home to satisfy your hunger. Chuxia is not that kind of person, Luoziokshan glared angrily. Brother, Chuxia is my future sister-in-law, can you stop bullying her all the time? Anyway, there's nothing good for you to be with her. Luohunky mentioned the old hen, pulled his eyes, sighed, and took a big knife and cut the chicken's neck to let blood. In the early summer, Luohunky smiled and said, Luohunky, the task of cleaning up the chickens is left to you. Remember to pluck the hairs clean. By the way, don't cut your intestines when you open the guts to clean up the internal organs. Go away, Luohunky roared angrily, stretched out his arms and shook the chicken, but he didn't smash it out. After entering the room, Luoziokshan's eyes were still red. In the early summer, when my mother was hit me, you helped me pull it a little bit. She was distressed by you. Maybe you must help me. You must help me. Understood. Chusia handed her the bag in his hand. I kept half of the dumplings made by my grandmother for my parents. These are for you to try. Luoziokshan sniffed and smelled. It's really fragrant. Then she put the dumplings aside. Her eyes were staring at Chusia, as if she wanted to ask but didn't dare to ask. Chusia didn't even bother her. I told you what you think. My grandparents are very fond of you. I discussed it with my aunt and uncle, and I will write to my eldest brother tomorrow. If my eldest brother does not object, send a matchmaker to your house to match up with Uncle and Fatty Gangshun. Really? Luoziokshan jumped off the Kong with joy, hugged Chusia dangling tightly, and then rubbed her hands back and forth. Did you ask if any girls wrote to him? I asked. My grandma said that my elder brother didn't mention it in the letter. Chusia pulled Luoziokshan to sit down. Ziokshan, I have done everything I should have done, and now I am waiting for my elder brother's reply. You know, my grandma and grandpa and my aunt and uncle agree only half the chance. The key is to see my eldest brother. If he already has a sweetheart, don't blame us, don't torture yourself, it's okay? Yeah. Luoziokshan nodded vigorously. I understand what you mean. Brother Ki Liang is so good. Maybe he has already been spotted by the leaders. Maybe, if he really has a sweetheart, I don't blame him, and I don't blame you. I can only blame me for not having a relationship with him. However, no matter what the result is, I will not regret it. At least I said it and fought for myself. Also, no matter what the result is, I will be grateful to you for the rest of my life. Don't. Chusia waved his hands again and again. As long as you figure it out, I'll be Amitba, but don't be grateful to me for the rest of your life. Thank me for such a trivial matter for the rest of your life. That gratitude is too worthless. Chuxia, my brother. After hesitating for a while, Luoziokshan whispered in Chuxia's ear, as far as you and my brother are concerned, let's take a look around first. If my brother is always so stupid, you don't marry him either. Chuxia glanced at her unexpectedly, but said nothing. Chuxia, I didn't say this on purpose because you helped me. In fact, I was thinking about this before. My brother's heart is not bad, but he didn't deal with you when he was young. Let's just talk about today's matter. It has nothing to do with you at all. He can also blame you. This prejudice is too deep. A woman must marry a man who likes her to live a good life. Josei stared at Chuxia seriously. Chuxia, what I said is sincere, do you believe it? Of course. Chuxia patted her with a smile. I went home to cut sesame cakes. If Aunt Fatty beats you later, you will run to my house. Okay. Josei originally wanted to ask Chuxia's family to come to her house for dinner, but thinking that it was her mother's favorite old hen. Boast. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. First marriage then love, Mr. Mayor please be kind. Author, Zhao Nuan. Chapter 26. Nuan has a cold, has a fever, and finally came out. Ask for a recommendation ticket, ask for a collection, thank you for the reward. Xia, went to your grandma's house today. As soon as Chuxia entered the courtyard, Grandma Lin Lu, who was sitting at the door of the main room with Xuan'er in her arms, greeted her cheerfully, and grandfather Lin Guangjian, who was sitting next to her, nodded at Chuxia while carrying a dry tobacco bag. Well, Lord, Milk, you are here after all. He was the father and mother of the cheap father, Chuxia replied and politely greeted the two of them. Xia, sit down and talk. Lin Lu pointed to a futon beside him and stopped Chuxia, who wanted to enter the house. Chuxia stood still. The number of times these two ancestors came here can be counted in one slap. Most of the time when something happened, they came to call someone over in early spring or early autumn. In today's battle, Chuxia intuitively felt that there was nothing good about it. I don't want to mess with them. Sit down. This time it was grandfather Lin Guangjian who spoke. Chuxia had to sit beside Lin Lu reluctantly. Xuan'er poked her finger with saliva. Chuxia flickered slightly, took out a handkerchief and wiped it for him. Xia is sensible. Lin Liashi smiled and reached out and touched Chuxia's head. I didn't realize it, Xia has grown into a big girl. Being touched on the head by the old lady who never looked directly at her, in early summer it was as uncomfortable as eating a fly. Master, Milk, I haven't cut the sesame cake yet. Lu Miking quickly came out of the east room. Xia, I cut it for you. If she had brought something back from her grandmother's house before, Lu Miking, who was not exposed to the light, would never have allowed her to have a quiet life. How could it be like now? Not only did she not find fault, but also helped her with her work. Right is really a good thing. When he raised his head, Chuxia smiled like a flower. Thank you, sister-in-law. Family, why are you being so polite? Lu Miking moved a futon and sat next to Chuxia. Xia, when you came back, my sister-in-law just wanted to help you get things in. You were really wrong. I miss my sister-in-law. Mrs. Lin glared at her grandson daughter-in-law and reprimanded, if you don't rob Chuxia's things, can she miss you? The old lady's voice fell, and the old man quickly picked up, it's not easy for your second uncle and aunt. If you can help me in the future, I will help me, and don't scrape them anymore. Lu Miking nodded quickly, Master, Milk, I know, it's not that I was ignorant before, and I will definitely not do that in the future. 3 reeds sing really well. Chuxia watched the performance of the three of them expressionlessly, but did not answer. Xia, your marriage with Hunky has been settled, the old lady asked Chuxia with a smile. Chuxia's face was pale, I don't know. In the following time, Chuxia's ears were filled with complaints from Mrs. Lin, and Mr. Lin added a sentence from time to time. After talking for a long time, the main idea was only one. It was not easy for them to pull a few sons and daughters together. Pain is the same. Chu Xia listened with a dull expression and didn't answer. She didn't even understand what was wrong with the old couple. It was enough to say these words in front of her parents. Why did they come and talk to her? Father, mother, are you off work? Seeing Zhao Yulan and Lin Baohe returning from work, in early summer, they quickly got up to greet them. It's been a tiring day, let's clean up and cook. Mr. Lin stood up and walked out, while Mrs. Lin Lu laughed and said a few words to Chu Xia's parents before going out. What do you mean by my grandfather and my grandma? After entering the room and closing the door, Chu Xia whispered to Zhao Yulan and Lin Baohe what the old man and the old lady had done in the afternoon. Lin Baohe and Zhao Yulan are also confused about the behavior of the old couple. If it is for Chuxia to marry Luo Hunky, there is no need to talk to Chuxia alone. No matter what, you will find out sooner or later. Are your grandmother and your grandfather okay? Zhao Yulan simply stopped thinking about the reason, unable to figure out the reason. It's all pretty good, both my uncle and my aunt, my grandmother and my aunt brought me some old stuff, and the dumplings that my grandma made at noon. Chu Xia opened the cabinet and took out the spoils she brought back. Put it on the Kong. I sent half of the dumplings to the fat aunt's house. Father, mother, you can try it now, it's delicious. I should have sent some to your fat aunt's house. Xia did the right thing. Your aunt is really good. If your grandmother hurts you again, it would be hard for you to bring these things back. Zhao Yulan sighed for two. He asked again, who brought you back? Before Chu Xia could speak, the door was pushed open with a bang. Luo Xiaoqing rushed in, panting like a bellows, so Chu Xia hurriedly helped her back. Aunt Fatty wants to beat you. Zhao Yulan got up with a smile. Auntie is going to cook. Let's eat dinner at Aunt's house tonight. When you go back later, your mother's anger will be gone. Zhao Yulan has become accustomed to Luo Xiaoqing's frequent troubles. I didn't ask the reason, I just gave the other party a conclusion. Aunt, stop cooking. Luo Xiaoqing grabbed Zhao Yulan, exhaled forcefully to calm herself down, and said, I'm here to ask uncle, aunt, and Chuxia to come to my house for dinner. Zhao Yulan quickly interrupted Luo Xiaoqing, no need, how can I go to your house for dinner? No, I have a guest at my house. Besides, I accidentally killed a chicken, and my mother praised me. Luo Xiaoqing said proudly, my mother said that I have never been so foresight, he. Chu Xia asked with a black line, you almost ran yourself to death because you were praised for killing chickens without being beaten. Excited. Zhao Yulan slapped her daughter angrily, it's just that Xiaoqing doesn't care about you, and she will really beat you up to talk about such depressing words in the future. It's okay, aunt, I'm not used to her talking to me properly. Luo Xiaoqing said while dragging Lin Baohe. Uncle, my father and my mother told me that if you and the second aunt don't go, you will still hate them. Speaking of this, I really can't help but go. Lin Baohe asked, who's here? Grandpa Feng Gang and the two soldiers. The two soldiers. Chu Xia squeezed the food stamps in her pockets, and she had a headache. In case the regiment commander leaked the message, her father and her mother ordered her to return the food stamps. No, she wanted to find a way to warn him, and also, that chicken can't die in vain. What are you thinking? Let's go. After being dragged by Luo Xiaoqing, she recovered in early summer, and Zhao Yulan handed her the remaining half pocket of dumplings. You and Xiaoqing go first, and your father and I will wash our faces. Go. Yeah, Chu Xia wished her parents would leave later, and immediately stepped out, causing Luo Xiaoqing to stumble. Luo Xiaoqing stared at her suspiciously, you're not quite right, you're a little surprised. Chu Xia dragged her at a faster pace and walked out for a while before lowering her voice, I know those two soldiers, and they brought me back when they came back. I also exchanged dumplings for some of their food stamps. Mother knows, won't you beat me to death? Luo Xiaoqing suddenly became excited, tell me, what do you want me to do? First marriage then love, Mr. Mayor please be kind. Author, Zhao Nuan. Chapter 27. Seeing Luo Hunky standing still at the gate like a telegraph pole from a distance, Luo Xiaoxian couldn't help tugging at Chuxia's sleeves. Why do I feel that my brother has become more and more after the marriage between you and my brother was negotiated? Nervous. Chu Xia pouted, I still have this effect. I see, the two of you have to take a long-term view. Luo Xiaoxian shrugged her shoulders and shook her head again and again. Anyway, I won't watch you two go down the road of no return. Chu Xia had a black line, I'll talk about it later. You can help me with the most important thing right now, and I'll treat you to something delicious later. Meet in half. Half and half. I'm helping you at the risk of being beaten. Luo Xiaoxian straightened her waist, I'll do it myself so that you won't be beaten, how about it? Enough sisters. Enough, of course it is enough, but Grandma Chen loves you so much, she will definitely not sell you. The two of them murmured to the gate. Chu Xia squinted at Luo Hunky, obviously it was the butt. Why do you feel like there is something wrong with your brain? Lin Chuxia, Luo Hunky roared as he stared at Chuxia like a cockfight. Luo Xiaoxian hurriedly stood in front of Chu Xia, brother, what are you doing here with a straight stick? Luo Hunky coughed unnaturally, why didn't the second uncle and second aunt come over? Luo Xiaoxian suddenly said, my father asked you to invite the second uncle and second aunt. Why don't you hurry up? After speaking, he ran into the yard with the smoke in the early summer. The poor Luo Hunky, who had a sore buttocks, could only go to the early summer like a zombie. The house moved over, and the hatred for Chuxia naturally deepened. Fat Aunt was busy cooking in front of the stove. Chu Xia handed her the dumplings and rubbed her hands together. Auntie, what can I do for you? You and Mei Ying can go to the house and wait to eat. Fat Aunt opened the bag to look at it, and handed it back to Chu Xia. Didn't you bring some? I'll keep these for you to eat tomorrow. Chu Xia pushed it back, we don't have anything delicious to supplement at home. If my aunt asks me to take these dumplings back, my mother and my father will order to drink only water and not eat tonight. Your mother and your father are talking too much. Aunt Fatty shook her head helplessly and put the bag on the stove. Okay, you can stay in the house. Okay, Luo Xiaoxian responded and dragged Chu Xia to the main house in a hurry. When Aunt Fatty reacted and wanted to stop them, the two had already entered the house. Mei Ying, bring Chuxia to your house to play. Lin Chuxia, we meet again. Luo Gangshun and Johan Liang spoke almost at the same time, and then fell out at the same time. Luo Gangshun was stunned for a while, then looked at Johan Liang, do you know Chuxia? Yeah, when we went to Xiaolin village, fortunately we met Lin Chuxia, she helped us lead the way. Chu Xia aimed his gaze at Zhou Mikang, who was sitting on the inside of Johan Liang, and saw that the other party's face was cold, and the corners of his eyes did not slant in her direction. Meow, what are you wearing? Chu Xia sneered in his heart, but greeted him with a smile on his face, hello, Grandpa, Uncle Gangshun, and Uncle Zhou. To Uncle Zhou? Obviously, the corner of Zhou Mikang's mouth twitched. Chen Fenggang, who was sitting on the head of the Kong, smiled at Chu Xia. Chu Xia has grown into a big girl, and it seems that she is about to drink Chu Xia's wedding wine, hee hee. Luo Gangshun said with a look of regret, Uncle, I'm afraid this wedding wine will be available a few years later. This girl in early summer said that she will not get married before 22. Grandpa, when Chu Xia and I came over, I met Grandma. She said that there is something at home and asked you to go back. Luo Xiaoxian said, looking at Luo Gangshun, Dad, go back with Grandpa to see, there is something here. Me and Chuxia. The relationship between old man Chen and his wife is very deep. When he heard something happened at home, he hurriedly got off the Kong. Luo Gangshun hesitated and didn't know what to do. The old man's waist was not very good. It's a little rude for Johan Liang to throw it here. Secretary Luo, Please accompany Mr. Chen to go back and have a look, don't worry about us, Zhou Hanliang said, pointing to Chuxia. Besides, there is an acquaintance here, it's the same with her talking with us. He said this, Luo Gangshun no longer hesitated, apologized to the two of them, accompanied Chen Fenggang out of the door. Luo Xiaoxian followed the past and gently closed the door, turned around and sat on the edge of the Kong, only however, the slightly stiff facial expression fully explained that she was nervous. Why did you come to Xiaoxian's house for dinner? Didn't the People's Liberation Army not take the common people's needles and stitches and eat at the common people's house? Chu Xia preemptively asked, pressing his voice. The father of the regiment leader and Mr. Chen are friends. The leader of the regiment came to visit Mr. Chen on purpose. As for coming to Secretary Luo's house for dinner. Zhou Hanliang glanced at the expressionless Zhou Mikang and continued, it's also Mr. Chen's meaning, he wants us to meet Secretary Luo's son in advance. Luo Xiaoxian said suspiciously, why are you seeing my brother? In 3 months, we will come here to recruit troops, Zhou Hanliang explained with a good temper. Luo Xiaoxian raised her voice deliberately, really? My brother is going to be a soldier. I admire soldiers the most. Can you tell me something about the army? Except for those that are kept secret, just say what you can. With this effort, Chu Xia headed to Zhou Mikang to probe, hey, I have something to tell you, my father and my mother will come to dinner later, they are all very honest and sincere people, and I especially admire the soldiers. If I knew that I took your food stamps, I would definitely beat me up, you are so old, you won't be so rude, right? Zhou Mikang's expressionless face was obviously stiff, I'm not in my 70s or 80 years, and the whole world I don't need to publicize about the things I sent out. Is this a promise to her? Chu Xia breathed a sigh of relief, there is one more thing I want to tell you, the old hen that served you as a mat today is the chicken that can lay eggs the most in Aunt Fatty's family. It can lay 1 egg a day. Zhou Mikang interrupted her, how much food stamps should I discount? The Qing clicked on Luo Xiaoxian's place, is it for you or for her? Of course the food stamp for the chicken is for her, but the dumplings from my grandma's house. Zhou Mikang interrupted her again, understood, let's talk about it separately. Chu Xia, who originally thought it would take a lot of words, looked up at Zhou Mikang in disbelief, you can give as much as I want. Zhou Mikang glanced at her lightly, if the amount is reasonable, I will consider it, but there is one condition. The question I ask you must be answered truthfully. Chu Xia rolled her eyes for a while, do you want to ask me about Luo Hunky? First marriage then love, Mr. Mayor please be kind. Author, Zhao Nuan Nuan. Chapter 28. Under the thin black crescent eyebrows, the watery big phoenix eyes shone with a sly light, and the rosy lips were slightly pouted. In this early summer, there is an indescribable beauty, and beauty, Zhou Mikang shows a slight hint. Unnaturally looking away, Lin Chuxia, have you always been so narcissistic? Aren't you asking about me and Luo Hunky? I thought you were curious that I found my husband's family at such a young age, so what are you going to ask me about? No, you should give me the food stamp first, forget it. Chu Xia stretched out 2 fingers, stretched out 2 more fingers, and then stretched out her small hand, is it reasonable? Compared to the price of the 2 dumplings, it's reasonable. Zhou Mikang took out a stack of food stamps and handed it to her, don't be too biased when you divide it. Am I that kind of person? Chu Xia smashed the food stamps into his pocket without counting, and secretly made a victory gesture to Luo Xiaoxian, his mouth was not idle, what do you want to ask me? Just ask. Never mind. Chu Xia glanced at him suspiciously, if you pass this village, you won't have this store. If you meet again, you won't know it's the year of the monkey. Wordy, Zhou Mikang glared at her and waved his hand in disgust, meaning to let her out. Stingy Bala. Chu Xia muttered and pulled Luo Xiaoxian out. When the two of them went out, Zhou Hanliang cautiously aimed at his big boss, Captain, why did you, Kick her out. Joe Mikang snorted coldly, that child can't give too much face, he is definitely pushing his nose on his face. Joe Hanliang replied weakly, but he secretly sneered in his heart. You are not used to her stomping her nose and face. When have you been so good at talking? Wow, 60 taels of food stamps have been sent out, Regimental Commander, you also have my share in sending it out, okay. In early summer, my mother's chicken really earned 20 taels of food stamps, counting the small stack of food stamps in her hand, Luo Zioxian had a dreamlike expression on her face. I'll give you another 10 taels. Chu Xia counted out another 10 taels from her stack to give her, including the afternoon, there are 62 people in total, half of us. Luo Zioxian held Chu Xia's hand and hurriedly pushed it back, no, these 20 taels are too hot for me. If you give me another 10 taels, I won't be able to sleep at night. Chu Xia didn't insist, then I'll keep it first, and I'll give you a share when I buy things. Out of the corner of his eye, he saw Luo Hunky moving in like zombies behind Lin Baohe and Zhao Yulan, and Chu Xia smashed Luo Zioxian, I want to have a few words with your brother, you let him in. It's done. Luo Zioxian threw herself on the ground at the moment that Chu Xia admired her. Of course, she wanted to do whatever she wanted. Seeing her go out and muttering a few words with Luo Hunky walked into the room with her neck stiffened and hated. Aiming at Chu Xia, what's the matter? Tell me now. You want to be a soldier? Chu Xia glanced at him with a smile. Luo Hunky said in a bad tone, what's your business? The smile on Chu Xia's face became even more intense, I'm your fiancé, do you think it's none of my business? The ugly words are ahead. I will never be nice to you in my life. If you are willing to marry, I will not stop you, Luo Hunky said in a stern voice. Chu Xia blinked her big eyes, Luo Hunky, do you really hate me? What do you think? Luo Hunky turned his head away awkwardly. That's great. Chu Xia quickly glanced out and saw Luo Zioxian strolling in the yard to help her, so she lowered her voice with confidence, I don't like you either, and of course I don't want to marry you, but I am after saying such words in front of my uncle's family. My parents said that if I didn't marry you, Uncle Gangshun and Aunt Fatty would think too much. I had no choice but to obey their wishes. As for what you said about the food for your family, you really think too much. I, Lin Chuxia, didn't sell myself for the sake of ordering food, and I have food stamps. Speaking, he showed the food stamps in his pocket to Luo Hunky to see. In the future, I will follow to work, and our family's conditions will get better and better. Do you think I will plan for your family's food? Where did your food stamps come from? Luo Hunky looked at Chu Xia with contempt, Lin Chuxia, you won't even get caught stealing, right? It seems that your prejudice against me is not so deep. Chu Xia curled her lips helplessly, I don't want to explain the details to you, but this food stamp is just and above all, not only I have it, but Zioxian also has it, wait for the time, you ask her, she will tell you in detail. Luo Hunky glanced at her suspiciously, but said nothing. Chu Xia ignored him and continued, what I said next is very important. You must do what I said. You are not allowed to ask questions or object. Otherwise, I would rather marry you if I have a bad life. Luo Hunky, who was just about to refute, had no choice but to nod, you say it? Why did I mention getting married after the age of 22, just to see that you don't like me and don't want to marry you, and at the same time, it also gives you a chance to go back. For the time being, we can pretend like this first, and when you meet the girl you like, we will break the engagement. Don't worry, I will cooperate with you then. Ro. But you have to cooperate with me now, and pretend that you don't hate me that much. Why? In order to let the elders relax their vigilance, it will be convenient for you to meet the girl you like. Otherwise, you will be beaten by Uncle Gangshun every 3 days. Where can you find a girl who is willing to go with you? Luo Hunky's face was swollen and red, and his lips were trembling, and he didn't utter a word for a while. I know what you mean, why I didn't tell you earlier. You think, I have to let Aunt Fatty and Uncle Gang Shun think that I am ignorant, so that it is convenient to break the engagement later, or why would I eat so much that day? Mantu. Do you think I really lost my life when I saw Mantu? Not understand. Forget it, you don't have to understand, just do as I say, and I will definitely not hurt you to marry me. Chusia stood up and patted his shoulder. Trust me, that's right. Logo Hunky took a step back in fright. I can't believe you. Look at how brave you are, don't you want to be a soldier? If you act so immature, how can people accept you? Chusia rolled his eyes at him. When can't I say this? Why do I say it at this time? If I wasn't afraid of delaying you, could I say it now? Really? Logo Hunky's eyes were full of struggle. Lin Chuxia, why do I think you're almost a different person? That's your illusion, I'm still me, but I'm selfish, and I have to think about myself first when I encounter things. I used to not like to talk, but now I like to talk a little bit, and you won't get used to it, understand? I don't understand. Logo Hunky was even more confused. Forget it, you don't have to understand. You are such a selfless person, how can you understand my thoughts? You just need to remember what I said, and from now on, be more polite to me, understand? Okay. Logo Hunky, who had been successfully fooled, walked out of Logo Xiaoxiang's house with his eyes covered in mosquito coils. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. First marriage then love, Mr. Mayor please be kind. Author, Zhao Nuan. Chapter 29. Logo Hunky left the house on the front foot, and Logo Xiaoxiang broke in on the back foot, staring at Chusia curiously. Looking at my brother, his mind seems to be even more unclear. What are you talking about with him? Chusia caressed his forehead silently. Hey, are you his sister? Looking at your appearance, do you really want him to become insane? I'm not just joking with you. Logo Xiaoxiang retracted her body embarrassedly, twisted her fingers with low eyebrows and drooping eyes, and stopped making a sound. Look at how careful you are. Chusia poked at her in a funny way. I thought I didn't tell you on purpose, and I felt uncomfortable. No. Logo Xiaoxiang moved her butt uncomfortably. I'm embarrassed to say it's normal, I'm not also. It's alright, alright. Chusia interrupted her. Your unhappy face is all over your face, what are you pretending to be? I just told your brother that even if you don't like me, don't put it on your face all day. Let the elders worry. Logo Xiaoxiang looked at Chuxia nervously. Did you hear anything? Do you know something? Chuxia looked at her up and down. I think you're my best friend, that's how you treat me. I'm not sure. Yesterday. Out of the corner of his eyes, Logo Gangshun helped Chen Feng Gang to enter the door. Logo Xiaoxiang stopped talking and scratched his ears nervously. Uncle Gang. Uncle Gang. Uncle Gang, what's the urgency for Auntie to ask you? The voices of Lin Baohe, Zhao Yulan, and Aunt Fatty sounded one after another. Yulan and Baohe are here, Sai, don't mention it, the old lady's memory is getting worse and worse, she said she forgot to ask me something. Logo Xiaoxiang breathed a sigh of relief. Grandma is really kind to me. Yes. Chuxia nodded in agreement. Chuxia, Maying, it's time to eat. Aunt Fatty's voice came over. How many times I've changed my name, I just can't remember it, Logo Xiaoxiang muttered in dissatisfaction. You should just use Maying as a nickname. Chuxia patted her sympathetically. Now you know why I didn't change my name. 1 plate of fried dried beans, 1 plate of fried chives, 1 plate of fried chicken with dried chili peppers, 1 plate of fried pickles with diced meat, 1 plate of scrambled eggs with green onions, 1 plate of stewed noodles with pork and cabbage, and a small bowl of chicken soup for each person. Very rich. Not to mention a few juniors, The elders are a little dry and swallowing saliva. Yi Luo Gang Shun meant to divide into 2 tables, but was stopped by Chen Feng Gang, saying that there was a large table of people, but this relieved Luo Hunky, and he could stand under the Kong and eat in an upright manner. Luo Gang Shun, the head of the village and the head of the family, held up the water bowl. Uncle De Gang, I am delighted from the bottom of my heart that you have let the head of Zhou, the instructor, come to the house to have this meal. Head Zhou, Instructor Zhou, Bao He, and Yulan are in-laws with us. It is our honor to be able to entertain the 2 leaders together as a big family. Uncle De Gang said that there is discipline not to drink, then we will use water instead of wine, to respect Uncle De Gang and the 2 leaders. All our hearts are in the wine, water. The secretary was used to it, and Luo Gang Shun's remarks were impassioned. Zhou Mikang glanced at Chu Xia's face inadvertently, and held the bowl to Chen Feng Gang and then to Luo Gang. Today, I have touched the light of Chen Lao, thank Secretary Luo for his kindness. Yes, yes, thank you Chen Lao, thank you Secretary Luo, Zhou Hanliang quickly echoed. Taking a sip of water, Chen Feng Gang smiled and picked up his chopsticks. It's all a family, don't be so rude. I propose to eat at a table, for the sake of being more lively, not to restrain everyone. Eat whatever you want. No one is allowed to be restrained. Zhou Hanliang answered quickly, yes, yes, we are not restricted. Luo Gang Shun quietly pinched his son and winked at him. Luo Hunky was stunned for a moment, then picked up the chicken soup in front of him. Hand it to Chu Xia. Hey, this is for you, you are not in good health, you need to make up more. Luo Gang Shun's face darkened. Chu Xia is also a black line. Well, when she talked to him, she really wanted him to be a little more enthusiastic. Don't let Zhou Mikang read her jokes, but she didn't want such a result. In the face of the big table man, what is he trying to make trouble? That's enough for me. Chu Xia didn't answer. Luo Hunky insisted, and did not retract his hand holding the bowl. Chen Feng Gang smiled and cleared the siege. This kid, I know that I feel sorry for my wife, he. Silly boy. Luo Gang took advantage of the situation and pushed back the bowl that his son was holding there. You let Chu Xia drink so much soup, how does she eat? Uncle Luo, when is Hunky going to get married? Zhou Hanliang asked seemingly unintentionally. The matter of the 2 children is to be settled first, and there is no rush to get married. We have also discussed with our in-laws, thinking about letting Hunky go to the army to exercise first. Luo Gang Shun smiled embarrassedly. Headmaster Zhou, Instructor Zhou, in front of the 2 of you, I won't say anything false. My son has a good physique and a good heart, but his temper is a little straight, and he doesn't have much heart. Zhou Mikang looked up and looked at Luo Hunky. It's a talent. Zhou Hanliang glanced at Zhou Mikang's face and promised, Secretary Luo, we will pay attention to the red flag when recruiting, don't worry. This is equivalent to telling Luo Gang Shun bluntly that the matter of Luo Hunky's enlistment in the army is settled as such. Ren Luo Gang Shun boasted that he had seen the world, and became excited. Thank you, thank you, thank you Head Zhou and Instructor Zhou very much, thank you Uncle Dagong, Bao He, come, let's use water instead of wine, and then toast the head of Zhou, Instructor Zhou and Uncle Dagong. For this meal, the guests and the host enjoyed the meal. Luo Gang Shun and Aunt Fatty were very happy, their son's future was guaranteed. Chen Feng Gang was very happy, made up for the regrets of the year. Zhao Yulan and Lin Baohe were also very happy, in the future the son-in-law is promising. Shuxia is very happy, don't worry about the Luo family's change of mind and force her to get married. Luo Zioxian is very happy, my brother will become sensible. Luo Hunky is also happy, it is an honor to be a soldier, and you don't have to see Shuxia. Zhou Mikang and Zhou Hanliang is also very happy. Everyone's happiness. Chu Xia has reasons to explain, but Zhou Mikang and Zhou Hanliang's happiness, she can't find a reason, they are violating the principle and going through the back door. As for how happy? At that time, We will also accept a group of female soldiers. Jo Han Liang's eyes turned on Luo Xiaoxian, and then on Chu Xia before continuing, Uncle Luo and Uncle Lin are not outsiders, so we let us know in advance. Really, Luo Gang raised his voice abruptly with joy. Director Zhou means that Mei Ying and Chuxia are both qualified. Exercise more, or there may be opportunities, Jo Han Liang said ambiguous. Mei Ying, Chuxia, have you listened? Then you and Hunky will sign up together. The smile on Chuxia's face suddenly froze. She didn't want to be a soldier, she wanted to go to university. Damn Fox Joe, where did she provoke him? Did he have to take her to the army? First marriage then love. Mr. Mayor, please be kind. Author, Zhao Nuan. Chapter 30. Chu Xia and I can also join the army. Luo Xiaoxian blushed and looked at Jo Han Liang with big eyes, with a sincere expression on her face. Whether you can pass it in the end depends on your own performance. Jo Han Liang had a gentle smile on his face. The competition of female soldiers is greater than that of male soldiers. Glancing at the thin early summer, Luo Xiaoxian's eyes became more worried. Guozhou, is physical fitness the most important criterion? This is one aspect, Jo Han Liang said ambiguous. Seeing that Luo Xiaoxian wanted to ask further questions, Chu Xia quickly interjected, Xiaoxian, the two uncles have given us the news ahead of time. I'm still sensible in early summer. The fat ant smiled and greeted everyone. Headmaster Zhou, Instructor Zhou, hurry up and eat the food, it won't taste good when it's cold. Then she put the food into the bowls of Zhao Yulan and Lin Baohe. You two don't just drink water. I'm still planning. When Chu Xia gets married, we'll live together as a family. How can you be so unethical? Baohe, Yulan, your two families are good friends. Chen Fenggang put down his chopsticks. I haven't felt at ease in my heart these years, and now I finally feel relieved. Lin Baohe quickly expressed his position, Uncle De Gang, Yulan, and I don't blame you at all. You are always thinking of the public. Chen Fenggang waved his hand, you can't say that, if you're wrong, you're wrong. If it wasn't for your sister-in-law to stop me, I would have made many more mistakes. This man, marrying a good wife is a big deal. Said looking at Luo Hunky, Hunky, I know that I love my daughter-in-law, okay, I have grown up. Luo Hunky moved his feet uncomfortably left and right, his lips moved, but no sound came out. Seemingly feeling that this topic was inappropriate for Zhou Mikang and Jo Han Liang to talk about, the old man looked at them apologetically, I'm old, and when I think of the past, I'm willing to say a few words. You are always a person who values friendship. Zhou Mikang glanced at the time, Mr. Chen, I have a meeting tomorrow morning. I have to go back and prepare in advance. I will see you next time. Chen Fenggang said happily, okay, don't delay your business, drive slowly on the road. I'm not full yet. I'll pack some dumplings for the two leaders to eat on the way. In early summer, her grandmother made them. They're delicious. The fat ant said as she got off the Kong, but Jo Han Liang quickly stopped him, Auntie, don't be too busy, it's already troublesome enough. Head of the regiment, instructor, I will exercise hard. Luo Hunky, who was pinched by Luo Gangshun until her waist turned blue, blushed and burst out. Jo Han Liang raised his hand and patted him on the shoulder, we are waiting for your good news. Head of the regiment. Jo Han Liang glanced at Zhou Mikang, who had been staring at the dazed Zhou Mikang outside the window after the car drove for a while. Would you like to go home first and then go to the regiment? Yeah, Zhou Mikang responded lightly. You. Jo Han Liang asked after hesitating, do you really want Lin Chuxia to join our group? Zhou Mikang glanced at him coldly, drive your car. Yes, Jo Han Liang responded, staring intently in front of him, and stopped talking. I look quite old, Zhou Mikang asked out of nowhere. Jo Han Liang's eyes and brows twitched, no. Yes, compared to you, I really don't look old. A smile appeared on Zhou Mikang's lips, You said you were only 26, but who would believe it? Zhou Hanliang's face immediately turned lily. This is his biggest pain. Head of the regiment, can we not build our happiness on the pain of others? You said that the child grew up in the countryside, Zhou Mikang asked again. Zhou Hanliang thought for a while, then nodded. It should be. Looking at his parents, it doesn't look like he has traveled far. Also, after the parents heard about their positions, I don't know where to put my hands and feet. If I really have seen the world, how can I be so restrained? But how can the little Yeta be so calm? Zhou Hanliang carefully glanced at Zhou Mikang and asked again, head of the regiment, did you really want her to come to our unit? Uncertain. Zhou Hanliang immediately turned a black line. It is not necessarily that you ask me to let them know about the recruitment of female soldiers. What kind of trouble are you making? After a long while, Zhou Mikang said, we still have 2 mobile indicators, give Luo Hunky one. Yes, Zhou Hanliang responded, I'll do this as soon as I go back. Let him report to the army within half a month. Yes, although he was full of doubts, Zhou Hanliang answered very succinctly. He is not sure whether the head of the regiment is paying attention to Lin Chuxia because he misses his sister, or because of something next to him. If the regimental commander said that it was not because of Luo Hunky and Lin Chuxia's marriage that he was so eager to bring Luo Hunky to the army, he would not believe it. But, to my sister, is this necessary? However, as for the dry little girl, what other thoughts will the regiment commander have? Or, is it the special lover of the head of the group? Drive well. Yes. Uncle Gang, who are you and the grandfather of head Zhou? After sending Zhou Mikang and Zhou Hanliang away, everyone returned to the table to chat and eat. Luo Gangshun finally had the opportunity to ask the question in his heart. It's all about the old Wang's calendar, the friendship of a few meals. With a slight sigh, Chen Fenggang continued, I brought them here, just thinking of using this thing to flatten the relationship of the year. The old man is a heavyweight lover, I can't let him take that seriously for the rest of his life. Uncle De Gang. Aunt Fatty said gratefully, you really don't say anything to us. Hunky. Chen Fenggang looked at Luo Hunky, Grandpa will help you with this matter, and it is Baohe and Yulan's debt, you understand. Luo Hunky's face was flushed red, his mouth was half open, and he couldn't say a word. Uncle Gang. Uncle Gang. Lin Baohe and Zhao Yulan got off the Kong and stood together with a look of confusion on their faces. It doesn't matter who is right or who is wrong in the past, that's it, no one of us is allowed to mention it again. After a pause, Chen Fenggang continued, the matter of Hunky being a soldier is a certainty, and maybe also almost, if you can't go to Chuxia, don't blame me. Zhao Yulan hurriedly said, Uncle De Gang, you are thinking of us, we have all seen it, how can you blame you? Just like Chuxia's body and bones, I don't need anyone to tell me, I think it is mysterious. I won't go if I don't go in early summer. The fat aunt pinched her daughter, you arrogant child, Grandpa Dagong tried his best to give you a chance. That's how you repay him. Are you thinking of grabbing food at home and Chuxia?